Welcome, my beauties and bees, once again to another episode of Cryptic Corner, where we explore the world of the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden. I'm your host, Miss Bumblebee. We got a special show today for you. Something that's been rattling around in my brain since the beginning of back when this channel was still called by its old name. So, yeah, the concept of cryptozoology has always been fascinating to me. As you guys know, I've always been interested in it. I've told the stories about growing up with the books and watching the movies and the documentaries and being totally obsessed with Bigfoot and lake monsters. And I think I've really pounded at home where this all is rooted. But when you could talk about cryptozoology, it has kind of a little brother that gets lumped underneath the same category, and we've covered it before, just like marginally, right? There's a subcategory of cryptozoology that shouldn't be a subcategory of cryptozoology, and that's called cryptobotany, right? And that's plants. Now we've covered things like the mandrake, right? The scream of the mandrake, covered recently, talking about the folklore around that, and some other plants that we've covered. What have we covered? I know we talked about back when we did TikTok videos pretty heavily. We saw a lot of these walking tree videos. And I'll probably need to revisit that again because walking trees are always fun. That's a good, nice, lighthearted, just silly videos episode we should probably do sometime. But there's besides screaming mandrakes and walking trees. Walking trees like this one, mischief time. On our way to bully transphobes. Yeah, bitches. Anyway, when it comes to cryptobotany, probably my favorite was always the man-eating tree of Madagascar. So I had my friend read it for me. Put together this. Hope you enjoy. Let me know how it sounds.
From the top of the tree sprout long, hairy green tendrils and a set of tentacles constantly and vigorously in motion, with a subtle, sinuous, silent throbbing against the air. The slender, delicate palpi with the fury of starved serpents quivered a moment overhead, then as if by instinct with demonic intelligence, fastened upon her in sudden coils round and round her neck and arms. Then, while her awful screams and yet more awful laughter rose wildly to be instantly strangled down again into a gurgling moan, the tendrils one after another, like great green serpents with brutal energy and infernal rapidity, rose, retracted themselves, and wrapped her about in fold after fold, ever tightening with cruel swiftness and savage tenacity of anacondas fastening upon their prey.
All right, so that was the account of the Ativo. It appeared in an Australian newspaper. We're actually going to watch a little bit about the history of that. That's why I got myself an Australian to read it. But let me break into this for us. More about the man-eating tree of Madagascar. I've had Venus flytraps and pitcher plants in the past, but I don't have any right now. All right. This is do the channel thing. Sorry. This is Mythic, the Mythic Literati. Small channel, 544 subscribers. If you like this channel, I'm gonna subscribe because I do like this video. 190 views on this. This is good stuff though. So let's see what we have. Madagascar.
Long before DreamWorks Pictures glamorized the jungles of Madagascar, European and American explorers have been fascinated by this large island near the east coast of Africa. Many tales and legends have been brought back about its people and natural habitat. But there was one myth that had captured people's attention the most: the legend of the man-eating tree. In 1924, a former US governor by the name of Chase Salmon Osborne wrote a book called Madagascar.
Aw, thank you, John. You have a good rest. Put them feet up. Absolutely. Yeah, that was Mark Reed. And yes, that was a sundew in the stream. I used the sundew as the monster plant in that video.
Land of the man-eating tree. According to Osborne, Madagascar has influenced many literary creations, including the Arabian Nights, Sinbad the Sailor, and even The Old Man and the Sea. Even Marco Polo was impressed with the island. As for the title of his book, Osborne admits that the reason he used this title was to ensnare our interest. I do not know whether this tigerish tree really exists, or whether the blood-curdling stories about it are pure myth. It is enough for my purpose if its story focuses your interest upon one of the least known spots of the world. So, does a man-eating tree really exist?
Now, to be fair, Madagascar has some really cool endemic trees that are very cruel looking. So, you know.
Osborne has traveled to Madagascar many times himself, but admits that he has never seen such a tree. He keeps an open mind, though, and argues, why shouldn't such a specimen exist? There are, of course, insect-eating plants. Why can't there be a tree specimen that does the same? But instead of devouring insects, maybe something a little bigger? The missionaries that he had...
So, there are pitcher plants that'll, there's some that'll digest a frog. There's a lot of frogs that'll live inside a pitcher plant, too, though. So, they can have a cooperative relationship, too. There was a serious plot during the Holocaust to send the Jews to Madagascar. I did not know about that. That's interesting. She speaks slowly. You want me to speed her up? I think she's got like an Hindi. She speaks Hindi. I think it's Hindi. She might actually be from Madagascar. Let's look real quick. See where she's from. What are we working with here? Yeah. So, hello, I'm Nisha. Check out my channel for myths, mysteries, and legends and fascinating. Okay, she's from South Africa. Okay.
spoken to did not believe in it, but the native people were adamant that it exists. He also argues, interestingly, that even though the missionaries did not believe in it, they were also not quick to dismiss it, even though it is their, I quote, affair and responsibility to discredit and destroy anything that fosters demonism and idolatry, end quote.
So I don't know, because there's other plants and trees in Madagascar that are really wicked and have some cool mythology to them. The Malagasy people were pretty good at making folklore about their endemic fauna and flora.
Osborne does leave us with a story, however, but it is not his. In 1878, a traveler by the name of Karl Liesch wrote a letter to a Polish doctor, Omelius Fredlowski. It was later published in many scientific journals at the time, and Osborne chose to transcribe this entire letter in his book.
And just to let you guys know, Mark, that reading from Mark was an excerpt from this, so you're going to hear it again, but it's not going to be from Mark. It's going to be from this guy, or this lady. Yeah.
I will not read the entire letter, but a portion of it that contains a description of this mythical tree. If you can imagine a pineapple 8 feet high and thick in proportion, resting upon its base and denuded of leaves, you will have a good idea of the trunk of the tree, a dark dingy brown and apparently as hard as iron. From apex of the
trees, we're talking about man-eating trees, so we're talking about your people. We're looking at the trees right now and you almost missed it.
this truncated cone 8 leaves hung sheer to the ground, like doors swung back on their hinges. These leaves, which were joined at the top of the tree at regular intervals, were about 11 or 12 feet long and shaped very much like the leaves of the American agave. These leaves, hanging thus, limp and ageless, dead green in color, had in appearance the massive strength of oak fiber.
Are they leaves or are they oak fiber? I'm confused now.
The cone was a round, white concave figure, like a smaller plate set within a larger one. This was a receptacle, and there exuded into it a clear, trickly liquid, honey-sweet and possessed of violent, intoxicating, and...
Did you taste it? FedEx truck just pulled up. Nothing from you, I don't think.
Soporific properties. Off the undermost plate, a series of long, hairy green tendrils stretched out in every direction towards the horizon. These were 7 or 8 feet long. Carl Leish's narrative did not end with a mere description, however. He goes on to tell a fantastical tale of how his examination of the tree was interrupted by the shrieking natives and a subsequent sacrifice of a maiden.
Do y'all smell that? It smells like colonialism. Ooh, savage indigenous people sacrificing maidens.
With still wilder shrieks and chants, they now surrounded one of the women and urged her with the points of their javelins until slowly and with despairing face she climbed up the stalk of the tree and stood on the summit of the cone, the palpi swirling all about her. "Drink! Drink!" cried the men. Stooping, she drank, rising instantly with wild frenzy in her face. The atrocious cannibal tree that had been so inert and dead came to sudden savage life.
So, cannibal tree would imply that it eats other trees. I don't know. I would say man-eating tree is probably a better term for it. But I'm probably being pedantic because I know that they used to call like man-eating tigers. They used to call them cannibal tigers. Like the word cannibal just was like used as a blanket term for something that eats humans, which is not, I mean, at the time, it could have been a proper usage of the term because cannibal comes from an indigenous population, the name, a derogatory name for an indigenous population that were isolated on an island. And same with barbecue. Barbecue has this. Originally, barbecue meant to cook. It was specifically cooking humans as well. Barbacoa. But I digress. They think that or they use the word cannibal to describe man-eating as opposed to eating your own species, which is the way we use it today.
The slender, delicate palpi, with the fury of starved serpents, the tendrils one after another, like green snakes, quivered a moment over her head, then as if instinct, with demonic intelligence, fastened upon her in sudden coils round and round her neck and arms.
Mm-hmm.
With brutal energy and infernal rapidity, wrapped her about in fold after fold, ever tightening with cruel swiftness and the savage tenacity of anacondas fastening upon their prey. Carl Leish then goes into gory details about the aftermath, dramatically describing the blood trickling down from the stalk of the great tree, and the natives rushing.
Whatever she's drinking there is supposed to have caused madness, right? It caused insanity. Now, there is a tree actually in Madagascar called the Cerbera mangas. And it does have some popular folklore. The seeds are actually poisonous. Let me read you a little bit about it. They call it the Tangina. Let me clear my throat, not in your ear. All right, so Tangina is the indigenous name for the tree species Cerbera mangas of Madagascar, which produces seeds containing highly toxic cardiac glycoside cerberin. It's a chemical compound that were used historically on the island for trials by ordeal held in order to determine the guilt or innocence of an accused party. So these were like used for the part of their judicial system. So I don't know if he's taking that practice, right? If the writer here is taking that practice and kind of building onto it of this tree's seed being used as part of this ritual, right? Of well, they call it a ritual. It is a ritual because there's no way that the tree seed can actually help you determine innocence or guilt of a party, of an accused party. I just don't see how that's possible, unless they're saying like your heart races faster when you lie. So if you take this and then your heart races and it kills you, then you were guilty. I don't know, but regardless, the Tinga might have been the inspiration for the Tuveo.
Looking forward to drink from it. Before he was rushed away by a colleague as the scene descended into madness and frenzy. He returned to the tree 10 days later to find a skull at the base of it as a reminder of the sacrifice that had been made. Well, this has been such a fantastical tale that one was inclined to believe that it was the work of a very creative imagination. And one would be right. I came across an online article by the New York Times stating that the Museum of Hoaxes website claimed that every detail in the story is in fact
It's all
fictitious.
a work of fiction.
Not just the tree, but both Carl Leach and Dr. Fredlowski do not exist either.
Not real people?
The story was written by Edmund Spencer, a reporter for the New York World, not to be confused with Edmund Spencer, the 16th century poet. This reporter also had a reputation and a talent for writing fiction as well. Even though the story was a complete fabrication, it was somehow printed in a scientific publication. It was later confirmed a hoax, but somehow people chose to ignore this confirmation, and the original articles...
And they still do in the crypto community. I guess I'm going to call it the cryptid community. We used to call it the crypto community, but I don't want that to get mixed up with the crypto bros. The crypto community has its roots way back in the 70s, and I'm kind of sad that just cryptocurrency kind of just took over the terminology. Now you go see like a CryptoCon or something like that advertised. It's like, oh, I want to go see freaking Bigfoot merch and stuff. But nope, it's cryptocurrency bullshit. So I digress. I don't remember where I started that rant at, but
continued to be published and retold as...
Oh, yeah, the people continue to spread this story as if it's true, when it's like a known false... Like, it's known work of fiction.
facts.
Good morning, Orange.
It is no secret that Victorian Britons had a fascination for the macabre. Imperialism gave them a thirst for exploration, but with this came an obsession of painting native people, especially those on the African continent, as exotic, savage, and even cannibalistic. And therefore the public were willing to...
And that's going to be a recurring theme, because this is not the only one of these situations that we're going to deal with.
believe the tale
Today.
of the man-eating tree of Madagascar, even though it was never true. And some still believe it is true to this day.
Yep. And that is true. People do believe that it is true to this day. Don't worry, though, my beauties and bees, because we are not done yet. Oh, no. We have more man-eating trees to come, because Despite this concept being like something that from the colonial days, far away and forgotten, this stuff is still happening in modern times. Hold on, I'm gonna sneeze. Got a little bit of a head cold. Thank you for your patience with me. Yeah, that also not related to cryptic community who are Sudoku enthusiasts. Yeah, our cryptid currency and is what it's called in Bigfoot box. There you go. Now I found the original video, but this person has kind of pared it down and edited some of the audio to make it a little bit better for me. So this is not something that's happened far away and long lost. This is the cow eating tree, aka the tiger tree of India. And this is just from 13 years ago. So in the 21st century.
In Roy McCall's book, Searching for Hidden Animals, his last chapter is entitled The Monstrous Plants. It was not about cryptozoology, needless to say, but about cryptobotany, being a short treatise on the Victorian accounts of man-eating plants. As McCall points out, many zoologists and botanists have been fascinated by plants that eat meat since the days when Charles Darwin was bitten by this interest, and wrote a definitive work on the subject, Insectivorous Plants, published in 1888. McCall spends his final chapter detailing mostly the reports from the 1850s through the 1940s of the man-eating tree of Madagascar and the expeditions that searched unsuccessfully for the species. Carnivorous tree.
People actually believe that folklore that or the fictional piece that we just read there, people actually believed it. They're like, yeah, the man-eating trees of Madagascar is real. They sent expeditions to find it, but they obviously didn't find it because the tree doesn't exist. But
trees grabbing humans and cattle and gobbling them up is not just village folklore. Residents of Padrame near Kokora Upper Forest Range cited one such carnivorous tree trying to dine on a cow last Thursday, October 18, 2007. According to reports, the cow owned by Anand Gowda had been left to graze in the forests. The cow was suddenly grabbed by the branches and pulled from the ground. The terrified cowherd ran to the village. Before the tree could have its last meal, Anand Gowda and the villagers struck mortal blows to the tree branches that turned limp, and the cow was rescued. Upper Range Forest Officer Subramanya Rao said the tree was described as Pilimara, tiger tree,
and this made like local news, right? This was like not on most. They're going to show the news report. They're going to show what actually was reported, and they're going to go look at the tree too.
Native lingo. He had received many complaints about the cattle returning home in the evenings without tails. On Friday, the field staff confirmed coming across a similar tree in Padrane partially felled down. However, no detailed inquiry was made as the authorities were not asked for any report. The following video is the full report from the YouTube channel Walter Nandalike. Please note that this video contains...
Yeah, and I watched that video too, and that's why I decided to watch this one instead of that, because this without any context or anything, you'll see it's really hard to keep up with. I tried to use the translator and everything, but this guy seems to have a pretty good grasp of the Indian language and knows kind of what's going on, so I figured I'd pass that buck to him and not make a fool of myself trying to keep up with all the Indian names and stuff.
Contains the original audio, and I did not add any of the music
because the music is bad. And then there's some...
If a dog bites a man, it is not news. But if a man bites a dog, it is news. Similarly, a small village near Uppinangadi is in news these days. Cow-eating tree has become a center of attraction in Patrame, a remote village near Uppinangadi. No, it's not village folklore, but a fact. The villagers claim that the tree tried to gobble a cow.
No, it's not folklore, just a fact, because these villagers said so. That's how Indian media works, I guess. Daji TV World. Daji? I don't know how you say that word. Again, I don't want to butcher the Indian language. It's pretty language.
That went grazing. 15 days back, a strange incident took place in the small village near Uppinangadi. And the villagers even to this day...
And remember, this isn't like 1970 something. This is like 2007 that this happens.
...not come out of the shock. Believe it or not, this remote village Patrame has a cow-eating tree.
Are you picking up why the narrator said, hey, I didn't put any of this music on it? It's actually from the news report. It goes on like this for a while, so. It's like a 1980s detective show music, except for these would just be little, like, they should be like little 10-second clips, like between like from jumping from one scene to the other on like an old cop show, but instead it's just played continuously. Looking for that tree hiding in the cow's
A cow
food.
owned by a villager, Ananda Gowda, which was left in the forest to graze, was grabbed by a tree locally known as Marua tree.
Sorry, the music and the acting chops. Goodness gracious, this goes on forever. Ooh, look at that spooky tree stump.
Pushpalata, a local who is an eyewitness to this horrific incident, explains the whole scene. It was around 12:30 p.m. when she was on her way to the shop. Immediately she informed her mother Kunni, who rushed to the spot and asked Pushpalata not to touch the tree.
ಏನು ಪಟ್ರಾಮಿ ಅಂಗಡಿಗೆ ಬರೋನಿತ್ತೆ ಐದು ಬುಕ್ಕ ಐಡಿಯಾ ಎತ್ತನ ಅಪ್ಪೆ ಬರೋನಿತ್ತೆ ನಾನು ಕೈಟ್ ಬಿಚ್ಚವೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೈಟ್ ಮುಟ್ಟೋಡ್ಸಿ.
Must be a completely different tree from the one that ate the villager back in Madagascar, because this one's like only as big around as a coffee cup.
ఇందంటారు మరొక దొరికిತ್ತು కంచిని వీరప్ప ముత్తు పోతిట్టు రెడ్ కార్ల అవి ముట్టు వచ్చి కత్తికొండాలి అందరు ఏంటంటే వాస పని అయితే నారెడ పనిపోయాను నేను ఆపుచింది అవి కారు ఒక బత్తు ఆయన కడుతు పుడిపోయారు.
More guys walking. This is a slow motion too. Look at how slow they're walking. There's the tree stump. They killed it. We could probably take a sample of this tree and figure out what kind of tree it is. It's got some leaves there. There's some bark and some heartwood. All the stuff we need to find out what species of tree this actually is, but they won't. And we're just supposed to take their word for it that this thing grabbed a cow. This looks like a tree. Like, what was it? Like, what was it going to do to the cow? It has no internal organs to like eat it or digest it. There's no esophagus to consume it or drink its blood even. Like, what was it going to do? I would say if a tree became carnivorous, it would likely fertilize its roots with carcasses, because the roots are already they're already absorbing nutrients, right? So it wouldn't see it necessary for any angiosperm tree to secondarily develop a system by which to gain nutrients from within its branches, or like a Venus flytrap or something like that, where they grow in really poor soil, right? That's why their roots don't absorb so much, and they absorb through their nutrients through their leaves, right? This is something like a Venus flytrap, right? The most primitive kinds of carnivorous plants just have sticky leaves. That's all. Just sticky leaves that cause the things to die on the leaves, and then the leaves absorb the nutrients because the soil doesn't have any nutrients. That's where it started. You know, it starts with sticky leaves, like, and then you might get some hairs, some scent maybe that lures your prey in to land on the leaves, and then they're stuck. You might get some hairs that, when it comes to things like Venus flytraps, some hairs that trigger a physical response, right, to close on the insect, things like that. But for an angiosperm, something that depends so heavily, like an angiosperm tree, something that depends so heavily on its root system for gaining nutrients, I'd have a hard time accepting a evolutionary pathway that would lead for it to start absorbing nutrients through its leaves instead. Because if it's nutrient poor soil it's growing in, it wouldn't have the structural capacity to get that big unless it was eating an awful lot of other creatures through its leaves. Unless, but generally, you wouldn't expect for it to be able to get enough nutrients through that feeding mechanism in order to grow to a substantial size, or for it to evolutionary have a history where its roots would want to quest down deep enough to actually make it a stable organism to actually grow that big, right? A lot of factors are going to come into place here. But I think the largest carnivorous plants are probably not going to be big enough for a human to, they just, mechanically speaking, they're just not feasible at that size and that scale. At least not in today's ecologies. And I gotta break that song up a bit too, because they're playing some X-Files music. Let me read here. I was thinking maybe a tree fell onto a cow, and that's how I would do it if I was a tree. Yeah. There's no such thing as Indian language. India has 22 official languages. India is home to 121 languages and 270 mother tongues. There's a lot of languages that are spoken in the Indian subcontinent.
The tree was about to gobble the cattle when Vasanna, who was doing fencing work nearby, saved the cow from the clutches of death by chopping the tree.
ఉంటుంది అరకాటు వాటు దాయి ఉంటుంది అండి అప్పగా ఈ ముట్టు వచ్చి పారిపోతూ లిప్పమగా అవునండి లిప్పు అగిలిన లిప్పు దండ కత్తి ఉంటుంది అండి బుట్టి నాటిపోయి అతను అప్పారు బాణర్లో.
Yeah, but I don't see. That's the thing. I don't know which language this is. I don't want to assume it's any specific language. I don't know enough about the languages of India to assign any specific language to what they're speaking here. So I'm not gonna jump to an assumption and just say this is an Indian language. But if somebody tells me the name of it, it's like Pujali or something like that, I will switch and call it that, which I think is the most common language spoken over there. But
అది ఈడే కొట్టారు ఈడే కూడా పట్టి ఈడే కట్టలేనండి ఇంకా ఈడే కట్టేందుకు పెట్టాను తిరిగారు బుడిపైన మేము తిట్టిన తబాకిలో వాళ్ళు పోయితావు పూగా ఈతడి ఇస్తాను ఇంజ చుట్టూ ఇంకేన్ని ఇస్తుంది మంచిగా ఈతగి అరకాటు వాట చుట్టూ.
This is not the first incident that has terrified the people of Patrame, says Ananda Gowda.
That's like the Bengalese language, yeah, Punjabi. Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't know if this will be the language that they're speaking here, though. If the tree falls in the forest, if the tree falls on a cow in the forest and no one there is to hear it, doesn't moo, well, like the cow's by itself? I think eventually somebody. Hindi, yeah. Hindi is a common language.
ಒಂಜಿ ರಾತ್ರಿ ಇಡೀ ಇತ್ತು ಅಲ್ಲೇ మన తల్లి ఒలుపుగా ఎన్ని కడత పడిపోయినా బోరిగా బీలో గాయాతిತ್ತು బీలో.
Right, yeah, I'm kind of actually worried about getting, that's why I keep stopping so much here, because I'm kind of worried about getting the X-Files music striking me here.
అయితే
because I've seen, I like watch TikTok videos, they're less than a minute long and have X-Files music and just nope. They hit it every time.
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಟ್ಟಾತಿತ್ತು ಬೀಲ ಸುತ್ತ ಪಾಂಡತ್ತವು ಆಯ್ತಾ ಒಂಜಿ ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಹಂಚಾಡಿ ಕರೆಂಟ್ ತಲೆಗ ಪತೊಂಡು.
So he's talking, I don't want to be saying here, but I know that the folklore is that they grab the tails and he was just holding the tail and talking
ಮರಕ್ಕಲೆ ಅನ್ಪೇರು ಅವು ಇಂಚನೆ ಪತೊಂಡು ಮರಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತೊಂಡ್ಲ ಕತ್ತಿ ಕೂಡ ಪಂದೆ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಬಳ್ಳಿ ಬಂಡು ಹೋಯ್ತಾರೆ ಇದು ಅಗಲೇ ಬಂಡು ಹೋಯ್ತಾರೆ ಕರ್ಬದ ಆಗೋಡು ಮರಕ್ಕೆ ಕರ್ಬದ ಆಗದೆ ಮರಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತೋಡು ಅದನ್ನ ಮರಳ ಪತೊಂಡು ಒಂದು ಬೇನೆ ಎತ್ತರು ಕಂಡಾಟ ಬೇನೆ ಎತ್ತರ ಈಗ ಬೇನೆ ಇತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಉಂಟು ಬೇನೆ.
Once the tree had the cow, what was it going to do?
ಗುಡ್ಡೆ ಮೇವಂತ ಬಂತ ಬರ್ಪುಣಿ ಇತ್ತಲ್ಲ ರುಮ್ದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಡಿ ಅಂಟ ಬೇನೆ ಇತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಉಂಟ ಈಗ ಅದು ಮುಟ್ಟಾಲ ಉಡ್ಬಿಜಿ ಬೀಲ.
The cow is
because the cows will come home with no tails, you know. She's about to start talking, though. At least we get some clarification.
Is recovering from the pain in its tail. This story of carnivorous tree trying to dine a cow.
This is the cow.
Has spread out like a wildfire. So, for the villages of Patrame, cow-eating trees are no more a village folklore. So far, people had only heard about such carnivorous trees or the man-eating tree. But now at least, some from our own backyard have seen it.
Yeah, it sounds like it's this. The cow got its tail tangled up in something. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know about singing over that. So I'll turn it way the heck down now. So the guy starts talking because it's gonna start.
ಮರಕ್ಕಾಲೆ ಅನ್ಪೇರಿ ನೆಲಕ್ಕಾಲೆ ಅನ್ಪೇರಿ ಇಂಚ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅವು ಕಾಲೆಗೆ అంటే ಅವು 18 ಬರ್ಪಣಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಅವು ನಲಿಕೆದಾಗಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಗೊತ್ತುಂಡು ಆಗ್ಲೂ ಸಂದಿರಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಪನ್ಪೇರಿ ಆಗ್ಲೂ ಸಂದಿರಿ ಐನು ಲೆಪ್ಪಂದೆ ಆಗಲೇ ಸಾಧ್ಯನೇ ಇದ್ದಿ ಆಯ್ತಾ ಶಕ್ತಿನೇ ಆಗಲೇ ಪಡಂತೆ ಆಗಲೇ ಗೊತ್ತು ಆಗಲೇ ಗಂಟೆ ಆಯ್ತು.
The name of the village was, hold on, I have citations here, just a second here. Come on. That's this one, right? Yeah. Sorry, we got some things I closed here, but October 2007. The village of Patrame, that's Patrame. Let me drop that in the side chat for people who want to track down this village and find out what language that they were speaking. And that's cool with me. That's the name of the village. Let's see, we can probably find it on the map. Even think about that. You know how I like finding stuff on the map. But I bet there's no way to get down to it. We'll see. You know. Okay, so here we are. That's Patrame. And zooming in. Let's zoom out first to see where we are. So we're way down here on the southwest coast of India, north of 75 and west of 73 and east of 118. It looks like it's sort of back country a little bit. I don't know if we can drop down in here or not. There may be some of these roads that we can walk on. No, the closest we can get is maybe right here. But it shows you how deep in the rough we are. I mean, we are in the tropical part of India. This is like Florida. Did it flip me over? Probably. No, it didn't. Okay. So, can we get any closer? Any closer? What's the closest we can get? Yeah, that's probably about as close as we're going to get. Maybe up here is a little bit closer. But honestly, you're just seeing dense jungle. There's a jungle path going up the cliffside. Anyway, we'll let it continue.
ಭೂತಾಟ ಇನ್ನು ಪಣ ತೆಗಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯನೇ ಇದ್ದಿ ಅಕ್ಳು ನಂಬುಬೇರೆ ಅಕ್ಳು ನಂಬುದಾಯ್ಕ ಅಪ್ಪಣ ಕ್ರಿಯೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇರೆ ಎಂಕ್ಳಿದಾಲ ನಂಬರ್ದಾಳಜ್ಜಿ ಅಂಕದಾಳಜ್ಜಿ.
So they did away with a ton of cryptozoology and cryptobotany articles in Wikipedia. Like, it's been a few years ago. It was like 2014. But there used to be, like, every cryptid had its own article, and there was a list, and there was a nice hub page for them and everything, and they got rid of all of it because they thought it compromised the integrity of the site, trying to figure out what was a cryptid and what was mystical or mythical.
Well, only botanists and zoologists can do something to bring out the truth behind the whole incident at Patrame.
Patrame. No. We just visited Patrame.
Indeed, a strange thing. Perhaps scientists can throw light on this rarest of the rare incident.
That's Gloria Rodriguez. Okay, let's stop with the Oh, you're gonna... Okay, I think that's it for that one. I thought the main narrator guy was gonna come back, but he did not. Okay, we're not done though. There's more. There's more man-eating trees. Here is one from the island of Java.
History of the world, the man-eating tree on the island of Java.
This obviously
on the
an AI
Indonesian
voice.
island of Java, a man-eating tree grows. It is made up of many soft branches. Once someone or an animal accidentally touches one of the branches, the tree will be alerted and immediately grab the person or animal tightly. At the same time, a gelatinous liquid will flow out from the branches. Digest man or beast. Then he spread his branches again and waited for the next opportunity. This man-eating tree grows on the Indonesian island of Java, also known as the mysterious tree or Dian cypress tree. Dian cypress trees are usually 30 meters tall with a trunk diameter of up to 1.5 meters.
None of these are cypress trees that they're showing here, by the way.
The branches are many and the crown is wide. The growing environment of the Dian cypress tree is very special. Can only be found in tropical rainforests. It also requires sufficient moisture and sunlight. There are many...
So, that's a true thing about carnivorous plants is they most of them are very, very photophilic, right? Like they love the sun, especially Venus flytraps. Like a lot of people who get Venus flytraps make the mistake of thinking, "Oh, I'm going to keep this in my house on my nightstand or on my desk by the window." They actually want to be outside in direct sunlight as much as possible. So you either need to do artificial light to make sure they have enough light, or just keep them outside, depending on where you live. But the evolution of carnivory in plants is always the result of poor soil, or poor soil quality.
Slender hooks growing on the branches of the Dian cypress tree. These hooks can catch animals passing by them, then drag it into the tree and eventually eat the captured animal. Reportedly on the Indonesian island of Java, someone once witnessed a cypress tree. Animals dragged into trees and eaten.
Just someone once witnessed one. No support for that or anything. Just they did.
In addition, some people claimed that they were laying cypress trees. Eaten animal remains were seen nearby. However, despite these reports, there is still no definite evidence that the Dian cypress tree actually eats people.
There's no evidence that any tree at all eats people, so that checks out. Here we go, and this is another video of an alleged people-eating tree. We're gonna explore this for a second. So
things that bother you, they never bother me.
Some Tiny Tim. Let's not do that. Okay, what are we looking at here, right? So you see here, I see root ball leading the way, and then some branches or vines coming off the back end. The angle of the camera is kind of set up so that you can't see how this is literally sliding down a hill, not moving of its own accord, but rolling down a hillside. Someone has uprooted this plant and it looks like they dumped it down the side of a mountain, maybe. Regardless, yeah, we're not going to listen to Tiny Tim talk about it. But there are carnivorous plants, that's for sure. And there are proto-carnivorous plants as well. Those are plants that haven't quite perfected eating animals, but do benefit from animals that get tangled or trapped in their clutches. We're actually going to look at that real quick here, because this video is something that I found like years ago. This was 8 years ago that this video was put up. I remember when this video came out, and I was like fascinated with this concept that they presented here. So this is the Way Out West with Sandra and Tim. The world's biggest carnivorous plant catches whole sheep. Let's see what they have to say.
People think I'm joking when I call brambles carnivorous plants. But before you sneer, just look at the evidence. go. And another one. Tiny. 2 of them. Hey, darling. You're a bit stuck, aren't you? If no one rescued this lamb, it would be dead in a couple of days. How long have you been here? And that's not counting attack from crows or dogs.
Look how tangled it gets itself in that bramble.
Round and round. We'll soon have you out, don't we? Sheep caught like this give up struggling quite quickly, and just stand there calmly waiting for death to arrive. They die of thirst or starvation, obviously, but often they end up on their backs and die of pneumonia. Now you might be saying, that doesn't make a bramble into a carnivorous plant just because lambs get caught in it. But again, look at the evidence. First, the motive. Obviously, the plant would benefit for years from the remains of a dead animal decaying into the ground around its roots. And there's another one. Well done. Sheep. Look at you go. Secondly, the means. The sheep get caught on their spines. But these spines are not just defensive. They don't just stick out straight like gorse spikes do. These are backward-facing hooks.
Like goth spikes do? Is that what he said?
They actually draw the prey in towards the middle, where they get caught by more hooks. The more the prey struggles, the more they get caught. No, these are actively catching the sheep, drawing them in, and then holding them tightly till they die of exhaustion and starvation, and then taking in their nutrients as they...
I wonder why he doesn't have gloves on, though. That sweater looks like it's just about as risk to getting caught as the sheep does, though. Is that a wool sweater?
The sheep rots away. Surely that's practically a definition of a carnivorous plant. Go on, lads, go on. Away you go. And as any sheep farmer will tell you, brambles are very successful at this. They can and do kill thousands of sheep every year. Often you see just a sad pile of wool and bones deep in a hedge, all that remains of their latest victim. All the sheep that are sheared annually don't get caught so often, and young lambs don't have long enough wool, but the ones in between are vulnerable, so we have to watch out for ours every single day. Of course, brambles are also one of our most productive and useful plants. Very importantly, they are pioneers.
And they're sheep fed. These are sheep fed blueberries.
Can survive in grassland and are a vital first step in converting grassland back to woodland. They also produce vast amounts of pollen.
Yes, bramble is heavily present in first growth forests. Absolutely.
For almost half the year at low temperatures, essential food for insects like my honeybees. And they provide safe habitat for many insects and birds. And of course they make blackberries. But they are also deadly killers. The humble blackberry, not quite as innocent as you might have thought.
Those are sheep-fed blackberries. Alright, he's got a follow-up video for this too, because some people really came at him about it, so he wanted to clarify some things.
Just stand there calmly waiting for death to arrive. 3 years ago this month we put up this video. We weren't expecting the reaction it caused. Who would have thought so many people could get so upset about a little video about a sheep stuck in a hedge? But they do. Since then it's been watched more than 7 million times, which makes it our second most popular video ever. And it turns out we've been paid pretty well for the time we spent making it. It's had nearly 50,000 likes,
5,000
because
pounds.
it's an interesting video and it makes a lot of sense. But it's also had nearly 10,000 dislikes. And the people who don't like it really haven't held back in their comments. We get more abuse on that video than on all the others put together. Apparently, we tied up the sheep deliberately. We abused our sheep in all sorts of horrible ways. We used the wrong knife to cut them free. We should have built a wall, and we should destroy our blackberry bushes in all sorts of ridiculous ways
FBI.
that include burning, bulldozing, and nuclear bombs. Well, let me make a few things clear. No, of course we didn't stage the shot. Sheep do get stuck in hedges here sometimes, as they do on any farm with natural hedges. Here are 2 lambs from yesterday. We check on them often so they're not in any danger. We just cut them out again. And this sort of thing happens maybe once a week at this time of year, and it takes a couple of minutes to free them. No big deal. And yes,
do the sheep eat the bramble too? That's kind of what I'm getting. It's like, are these leaves so good that the sheep are going to risk their lives to get in there and get at them? Or maybe they're after the berries. That would make sense. Wanting to get in there and get some of them delicious blackberries.
Of course, we cut back our brambles. If we didn't, we wouldn't have any fields left at all by now. But we cut them back in the winter, and funnily enough, they grow back again in the summer. That's what plants do. They can grow 6 feet in a year, so by the autumn, they're back in action again. But as I said in the video, we like our brambles.
So sheep have poor survival instincts just in general. So keep that in mind, and it's not their own fault because they're domesticated. We've bred them to be dopey. We don't want headstrong sheep. We want the mindless follower sheep.
We don't want to get rid of them because they are a vital part of the biodiversity here. All sorts of insects rely on them directly, and they create a safe habitat for many other species too. Plus we get honey and blackberries from them. So we're not going to kill them. We just have to keep a watchful eye on the lambs at this time of the year, that's all. And we do that anyway because we care about all our animals. And for anyone who says we should put up a fence or a wall, well, obviously brambles grow through fences, negligence. So that wouldn't be very helpful now, would it? And do you have any idea how much it will cost to build a wall around all our fields? Please feel free to donate lots of money. And of course, brambles climb over walls all the time. As for sheep being stupid, well, people have been breeding sheep for thousands of years to be docile and calm, so it's hardly their fault if the domesticated ones are not quite as sharp as the wild ones. But sheep are still funny and friendly and brave animals, and
adorable.
Still a lot smarter than some humans I have met, so I wouldn't change them at all.
Look how adorable they are! Look at their boopy little snoots and their...
As for the basic premise of the video, brambles are the biggest carnivorous plant in the world, well, the arguments people make against that theory basically come down to 3 types. The first one goes, it doesn't look like a Venus flytrap, so it can't be a carnivorous plant. Obviously, these people haven't seen this one, for instance. Or this one. It's not my fault if people are so ignorant about the world.
Well, that's sort of a proto... Pua is a proto-carnivorous plant. They don't really... the same kind of situation with these. Stuff gets tangled in them. It's more so than that they actively try
around them.
You know.
Carnivorous plants come in all sorts and sizes.
Now, sundew is what you're seeing here, carnivorous AF. Probably, I'd say even more so than Venus flytraps. Look at that. Look how they're built to kill.
And, by the way, as far as I know, none of them rely entirely on meat to live. They all use sunlight too, at least.
Those are pictures.
The next argument against the theory goes, the backwards-facing barbs aren't for catching sheep, they're for helping to climb over things. Well, of course, they do help the plant to climb over things. But if that was their only purpose, they would only be along the bottom edges of the tendrils, because they would be useless anywhere else. But, in fact, they are everywhere around the tendrils. So perhaps you'd like to explain that. And the last argument goes, brambles can't be carnivorous because...
So, the backwards-facing thorns thing, it does tangle stuff up. They do climb over and through things too. So to say that they're on the top too, they grow in first growth force, so they're not just climbing over stuff; they're climbing under stuff too. So I don't think that's a valid argument. But I digress. They do benefit from this proto-carnivorism
They can't digest the meat. But we're just the same. We can't digest most of the food we eat either. We rely on a myriad of bacteria and yeasts in our guts to do that for us, just as the brambles do. In our case, they're in our intestines, whereas for the brambles, they are in the soil around their roots.
Yeah, it's just the same as fertilizing the soil. Grass grows greener on a grave. It's not. That's just science, right? The problem with this argument is the plant doesn't use the meat blood directly. It has to rot for a bit first. Yeah, it has to. It's basically so not so much as carnivory, but like self-fertilization with carcasses.
So I stand by my hypothesis and salute this wonderful plant. But as always, we welcome comments and counter-arguments, although we'd appreciate it if you could keep them civil or non-violent at least. That video has been praised by many people as well for being insightful and educational, but it has taught us a lot too about some of the people who comment on that video. For instance, a huge number of commentators seem to have a thing against vegans for some unknown reason. They seem to think this video somehow proves that veganism doesn't make any sense. I have no idea how they came to that conclusion. All in all, it's been fascinating to observe the human reaction to that video. Almost as fascinating.
The grass grows greener when it's the graves of my enemies. Do you think so?
As observing the plants and animals in our wonderful wild hedges.
I think deer can get caught in bramble too. Let's actually look that up. I'm interested now that you mentioned that. Deer are more built for brambles though. There's one trapped in a rope swing. A couple of them trapped in rope swings and fences. There's the famous video of the sheep getting stuck in the fence.
С этой стороны, против солнца.
Oh. What are you doing, little sheepy? Right in it goes. Womp. Poor guy. But yeah, so that was our cryptic corner for today. Some man-eating plants, or sheep-eating plants at the very least, cow-eating plants, some giant carnivorous macro-predatory plants that want to consume the flesh of the living. That is what we looked into today. What did you guys think? Do you think that there are giant carnivorous plants out there? Do you think that bramble constitutes a proto-carnivorous plant, or thorns of that nature? Let us know in the comments down below. Everybody who stuck around through this, I appreciate you so much. If you want to join us every Saturday morning on Live from the Hive, where we do these Cryptic Corner segments, you can be a part of this lively live chat over here and ask questions and get some engagement and learn along with us live as we go through the video. Yeah, every Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I hope to see you there. Please remember to be kind, take care, and we'll see you next time.
From the top of the tree sprout long, hairy green tendrils and a set of tentacles constantly and vigorously in motion, with a subtle, sinuous, silent throbbing against the air. The slender, delicate palpi with the fury of starved serpents quivered a moment overhead, then as if by instinct with demonic intelligence fastened upon her in sudden coils round and round her neck and arms. Then, while her awful screams and yet more awful laughter rose wildly to be instantly strangled down again into a gurgling moan, the tendrils one after another, like great green serpents with brutal energy and infernal rapidity, rose, retracted themselves, and wrapped her about in fold after fold, ever tightening with cruel swiftness and savage tenacity of anacondas fastening upon their prey.